right now the snowbirds are going on, and there was RC Chili Bowl a couple weeks ago, and in those genres of RC, there's like factory drivers. Is there such a thing? Are there like pro or factory drivers in?
Yes, there is.
Welcome to RC Underground Radio.
Yes, I realize I look like an idiot with this mustache, and I'm okay with it.
The ultimate podcast that covers everything RC.
You don't need to cut anything either. You can just call this the raw, uncut episode. We can leave it at that.
The raw.
Yeah.
Are you drinking dollar store soda again? Quit spending your money on RC stuff. You can buy some name brand soda.
RC Underground Radio is your backstage pass to the RC industry. With insiders that are shaping the future of the hobby. The future of the hobby.
When we bring this guest on, I guarantee people are going to go, are you kidding me? He wrote a song.
I did.
We're going to have to end this soon, huh?
Yeah, no shit. And we're going to have to edit this.
So, here are your hosts, Dave Brinkman and Ryan Ratzloff.
Jim, I want to thank you so much for joining us tonight. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
I appreciate that you're taking some time to do this, to teach the world on the RC Underground Radio. We know nothing about rock climbing. We know about oval racing. We know about dirt. We know about oval. We know about foam. But we're all going to sit back and get a lesson today. So a lot of the floor is going to be yours, Jim. So bring us back. Let us know, what is Madera Rock Climbers?
Basically, it's my partner and I have gotten together, and basically he's done the majority of the work actually building the facility, him and probably a handful of volunteers. And we just took something that we really enjoy, especially the gentleman that's sitting on his property, named Dan, who actually started this. And he does it as an enthusiast in full size as well. So that's how it got started, basically 15 months ago.
So Jim, try to explain it a little bit, the grounds. Like if we were coming there to compete, what would we see?
Basically, you'd see all different types of rocks, different types of about anything you would run across out in the backwoods. Different types of rocks, different types of bridges, things of that nature, which you would run across. Basically, we've tried to incorporate anything you would run across is what we incorporated. We have a water feature, waterfall. Waterfall is an actual water feature that goes along the full length of the facility.
Unreal. So that was one of my questions was going to be, is can you actually be around or involved with water? But from what you're saying, you can.
The majority, yes, you can. As long as you don't basically submerge it like some people stick it in the pool. Right. But you can drive through water. Because the majority of these servos, they're water resistant, not necessarily waterproof. And that's a big misnomer in this industry is nothing electrical is completely waterproof. Not going to happen. So, good water resistant servo, good ESC and motor setup, and you're pretty good. Hobbywing probably makes one of the best setups you can get right now in their little X2 combo. That's what we use in all of our rigs, and it works flawlessly. And tuning it, things of that nature. Charlie's Twanka has been a very big help. These guys get pretty insane. I know I'm in the process of building an extended Capra on 2.2 wheels, which is just going to be insane with the Hobbywing setup.
So go a little deeper in that for those people that are really into the build of a vehicle. So don't hold back. Tell us everything involved in building something like that. From
basically, it's what features are you going to go into? Like our features on our setup is we're making it where we can go through bigger boulders, bigger obstacles with these 2.2 wheels. And when I mean 2.2, that means the size of the wheel. It's basically you have two sizes. You have 2.2 and 1.9. Well, a lot of places won't let you use 2.2s. They want to keep it down to 1.9s.
Why is that? What is the reasoning behind the difference in the tires, and why you would use one for one application and the other for the other?
Well, right now, 1.9s is we're finding there's more tires available and rim choices right now that we find on the West Coast.
Okay.
That's the biggest reason why we do this. Just the tire choice. I mean, you can get on Proline J Concepts, their websites, it's 1.9, 1.9, 1.9. The same way with the inserts. So you have an endless amount of inserts. And the majority of them are for 1.9 wheel setups. And then you have, on top of that, you can put brass inside the wheel to help keep the weight lower center of gravity.
Okay.
Then 1.9s are more popular, like the SSDs. I like the SSD inserts, the brass inserts. So you have to take all that into consideration when building the vehicle. Plus, right now, the best thing going is like the Capra four-wheel steer. It's a lot easier to negotiate, a lot of tight corners, things of that nature with the four-wheel steer. And that's one of the biggest things. Because you can lengthen that by using different links. I've used everything from companies from Trio to Axial. You have to consider on your servos, what servos you're going to use. There's an endless amount of servos you can use. I am, a ProTech fan. I love their servos. And I've also used Savoxes as well in a couple customers' rigs. So, and the electronics we've already discussed. I'm a high fan when it comes to the crawling. But some competitions you go to, for example, like Axial Fest, you have to use what comes in the rig. They're very limited depending on which class you want to run. And the majority of the time, there's 5 different classes. Like this extended Capra that I'm building, it'll go into their unlimited class. You can do whatever you want to it.
You mentioned a couple of things I'm interested in here. So you mentioned customers. So do you have an actual business where you actually build these cars for people?
Actually, I'm in the process. A partner and I, we are reopening Madera Hobbies in Madera, California.
Great.
Basically, he's downscaled about a year ago, and we just decided there was enough of a niche to reopen it. And I said, I've been doing this for 50 years. Okay. I've started when we used to use wiper arm speed controls.
I'm with you, buddy. I'm with you. 1978 was my first one, and I think we back then, and you can relate to this. We used to spend more time in a Radio Shack than we did at the hobby shop because you had to build. We wanted to build reverse into our cars. We wanted to do this and that, and you had to get the diodes and all that stuff. They didn't have it at the hobby shop at the time. They were just trying to learn what this whole RC thing was at the time. It was all trains and slot cars, right? And then all of a sudden RC comes into these hobby shops.
Yeah.
They're trying to figure it out as fast as we're figuring it out. So I'm with you. Yep.
Yeah. I've taken the old box radios and wired up a Parma slot car controller in the back to use it for throttle instead of that slide that was on the side.
Yep. I remember people doing that.
The brown box, and then I even had an old Craft. Remember the mustard yellow Craft box?
Yeah.
Even had a couple of those.
Yeah, so it's funny you mentioned the Futaba box radio. So we have a racer now, Nick Ciccone, that races with us. Really good. He's won races, and he's trying to use a pistol grip radio. He literally has not raced RC since back in the box days. He holds the radio like he's holding a box radio. He drives this way. And it works for him. He's like, I have to. That's the only way I ever knew how to drive. So yeah, it's funny that we're kind of talking about the old Futaba box radios. But yeah, it was. We've seen that whole evolution, huh? And it's interesting. It doesn't matter if it's rock climbers or oval carpet pan car racing or parking lot racing like we used to do. We've all been, those that did it back in the 70s have all been through this big evolution. And who would ever think the electronics would be what they are today? And I'm sure, it kind of amazes you what they keep coming out with.
Yes, it does. Every year it's amazing.
So then you were talking about classes. That's another question I have. So again, you show up, you're new to this, right? That's what we're hoping we're going to do with the show, is get some people to go, I've always wondered about this, but I didn't know where to get the info. Jim's giving everybody the info right here. You're getting the lowdown. If you want to get into this form of the hobby, tonight's program is where you're going to really learn how to get involved. So my next question would be, as a newbie, is what classes are there? What choices are there? I'm assuming there's everything from novice. You're just showing up with a RTR style version car or truck, and then it goes all the way up. So please, if you can take us through that, that'd be awesome.
Basically, we're going to try to start with like a box stock class. Basically, like some of the Red Cats and some of the Axials, where they just come out with it, put batteries in it, and go and have a good time. Just where people, and some of these guys, they can get real crazy. You can play with the inserts, you can play with shock springs, shock oil, the dampening. Depending on the links, you can play with the articulation. Where to put the weight, because some of these companies like Trio and some of them, you can get full aluminum housings for them. You can get brass for the portals, things of that nature.
Sure.
So we're going to try to cover everybody, but we don't want to discourage anybody. That's the biggest thing. Come have a good time.
Yeah, and I think that's great. It's a great format that you have, because you want to introduce people to the hobby, but then you don't want to throttle back the people that like innovation, right? There's just some guys, that's why they're you'll hear guys always saying, I like building them as much as I like racing with them or competing with them, right? They like that part. They like sitting there for hours and figuring this out and figuring that out. And you don't want to put a price tag on everything, because everybody's got a different price tag they can afford, right? To do their hobby.
That is correct.
And like you said, to get away from the world and just go have some fun. So it's nice that you guys aren't just focused in one lane. You're saying, hey, we can all come together. We can have this fellowship, whether you're a newbie or you are rocking this thing out. You got thousands of dollars in the thing, right? But you all have a common bond, and the guys that have been doing it for a while are going to help the guys that are new to it, and everybody just has a good time. And I applaud you guys for doing that. That's a great way to ensure that your hobby and your hobby shop is going to be successful, and it's going to continue to grow and not be this one and done. There's too many parts of the hobby that we see where it's all euphoric and everybody's excited, and then a year later it kind of fell apart. All of a sudden we only had 5 guys there. It's like, isn't anybody getting inside that and figuring out the problem? And it sounds like you guys have. You have a nice mix. Sounds like you have a great facility. So yeah, you've really figured out a way to make sure that this is successful. So that's great.
Well, we find years of experience. I've had to learn from him, and we applied it to the smaller scale.
Mm-hmm. So tell me about that. So you do full scale stuff. So let's hear a little bit about
my
that.
partner does.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
My partner Dan, that actually started this. He's the one that does all the full scale.
Okay.
So as far as I know, he's been to Rubicon. He's been to some of the larger events, and basically in the Western United States.
Excellent.
This is a 98. I think it's a 98 Jeep that is fully decked out. It's an amazing rig. And we've actually built a Capra that almost looks like his full-size rig.
Wow. That's crazy. That's awesome.
So
have you?
He's a little extreme.
We got to have those guys, right? If we don't have these extreme guys, then we're not pushing the limits. So that's awesome, and it's cool that he brings it from the full scale side. We have much the same here with us in our area. We talk to guys like Justin Haley, who's runs a NASCAR, and he loves the hobby. He's super passionate about it, trying to do things to grow it and gain exposure. So it's cool when you have people in full scale racing that then come enjoying in the hobby. So how about yourself? Have you done any other kind of racing, any full scale racing in your past?
Basically, I have been around full-size cars since I want to say my father started in 1970, and I've run karts and done a little bit of playing around, but nothing major, because unfortunately these days, if you don't bring money to this, to the table, a sponsorship,
sure,
they're not going to hire you. They're not going to give you the ride. It's not like the old days where if you had talent that you would get the ride.
So you ran out at Madera Raceway, or?
I've run out at Madera. That's correct.
Yeah. I was there one time. Fun track. Fun track.
Yeah, my background with my family is road course.
Okay.
So my father has been chief driving instructor for SCCA up until last year for over 30 years.
Wow.
So I have no choice but to be involved in big cars as well. In fact, we have two cars. We have a GT3 car as well as a Super Touring Lights car.
Wow.
So, yeah, I've been around the block, be it big cars or little cars.
Yeah, so that's what I always find interesting when we're doing this show. There's always some kind of link between RC racing and full-scale racing. And again, didn't disappoint. You have a great history. So did your dad also race then, I assume, right before he became a steward?
Actually, he still does.
Oh, okay.
He is right now, from what I can recall, he is the oldest active driver in SCCA.
Seriously?
He's going to shoot me for this if he sees this podcast. I do believe he is at 78. He is the oldest one in SCCA history. So, like I said, I've had a large background setting up cars, be it full size or small scale, and just the rock crawling was something different to do. It was another avenue, and it was another challenge. But physics don't change whether it's on road, off road, rock crawling. Physics are the same.
And that's interesting you bring that up. That's some conversation we haven't really had on. I mean, obviously we're talking about it, but we haven't really said it out loud. Like, yeah, physics. This is all about physics, and that's what we're all chasing. We're all science majors, and we don't realize it, right? Whether it's we're dealing with traction roll or we're dealing with trying to climb up rocks, we're all chasing physics. That's excellent that you brought that up.
I know we've had discussions about physics and car setup and what makes the car does what, and there's books that I've used as reference. There's been a engineer back in the late 60s, early 70s, Carroll Smith, not Carroll Shelby, Carroll Smith, that was an unbelievable engineer, and he made books called Engineer to Win, Tune to Win. Donahue did a book called The Unfair Advantage, and if you read those books, it really, really goes into depth of what sway bars, springs, dampening, what that does. And I know there was occasions where Martin Heddy and I have had a discussion where basically I've had to have him read the book and then come back and we would talk later because there was some information was misgiven, shall we say.
Okay.
Because physics don't change, whether it's a big car or a little car. It's not going to change. And that's the problem with the RC industry. Is a lot of the people, they're trying to reinvent the wheel. You can't.
Right? Somebody could say, oh, there's no way. It's just a little car. It's a little truck. There's no way weight distribution. No, there's a lot of stuff, as you say, translates from a full-size vehicle to this when it comes to physics. So can you give us just a couple of examples that come to the top of your head?
Well, the biggest thing is weight transfer. They make these little scales nowadays where you can set up a touring car just like you can a big car. They make scales for large scale. They make it for the smaller scale. And you can see what the weight transfer does. And it does the same thing with small scale to big scale. It doesn't change. And that's the biggest thing. Same way with the sway bar.
Sure. So coming from just an oval background, that's my main oval background. And sure, sway bars, spring changes, right on par with you. How do those two things affect when you're rock climbing? Why would you need to implement that in a rock climb car?
You'll need a softer spring just to get the articulation, but still try to keep the vehicle as flat as possible so it doesn't roll over. And then the dampening, the softer you go, it'll respond quicker. Then, like I said, weather plays into consideration. If it's colder, you want to go to a softer fluid and let that articulation happen as you're going over, say, a feature, say a rock feature. So that's just, plus you use it for ride hikes. The lower the center of gravity that you can keep, the less chance that vehicle is going to roll over.
When it's laid out, when you spell it out, it makes perfect sense. Is there anything that you want to cover? I've been asking all the questions. Is there anything that you're like, hey, for our group and for, the love of this part of the hobby that you want us to cover?
We like the camaraderie. That is the biggest thing that Dan and I have tried to do, is just the camaraderie. Come out, have a good time, enjoy yourself. Sometimes we'll even have a barbecue. Sometimes we'll have giveaways. The hobby shop that I'm working with, we're going to have giveaways. Just try to get people involved. That's the biggest thing. Come have a good time. And so far, the crawling group has been a very good group of guys. I know there's another group called the Millerton Lake Crawlers to get even more people. It's networking.
Yeah.
And that's what we try to do.
Yeah. Again, people that, watch our show that are just thinking about the hobby, I just love when those parts of the story, because that's such a big part of this hobby. It's a great story to tell, and I don't think it's being told. It's like that is really the theme of this hobby. It doesn't matter who we have on the show. They're either saying they need to get to that point, or they're very proud of what point they have. Like your group, you're very confident that, hey, if you come and spend the money at a hobby shop to come and do this hobby, I guarantee you're going to have a good time the first time you come, and you're going to continue to have a good time every time you come. And that's a theme of this hobby that I just don't think that story's told enough. Luckily, people that like yourself that we've had on our show are telling that story, and it's so refreshing that it doesn't matter if it's in Madera, California, and you're climbing up rocks, or you're running a short oval class at Race City in North Carolina. It's the ones that are successful. So if this is somebody out there who's not even thinking about just getting in the hobby, but maybe you want to open a hobby shop, or you want to have a track of some kind of RC facility, make it about the people. And if there's a certain amount of money you need to make, because that's going to be your living, and you got bills to pay for at home, and you got bills to pay for the facility, make it about the people, and the money will come. Is that a fair statement?
That is correct.
Yeah.
That is correct. And like I said, we want people just to come out and enjoy themselves. It doesn't take a lot of money to really get started, but if we can get somebody that's had a bad day and they can come out and play around, and it puts them in a different world, in a better place for a couple hours, great. We've done our job.
Well, Jim, hey, this has been fantastic. Why don't you let the listeners know where they can find out more? Because I know they're going to be as excited as I am to start doing some searching and learning more, and knowing that they can come to Madera and do rock climbing. So where would they find out more information about you?
Basically, you can go to MaderaMysteryMountain.com. We have a website as well as a Facebook page. And I personally will be at Madera Hobbies in Madera, California.
I'm sure they'll have a lot of questions, and they're going to want to be buying some stuff and come out there and rock climb. So again, we want to thank you so much for your time. I knew it. I knew there was going to be a lot of fascinating information about this piece of the hobby, the whole rock climbing, and then learning your background. So this has really been an entertaining session, and I can't thank you enough for joining us tonight.
You're welcome.
Folks, are you looking to have half of the enthusiasm Hunter Carey has up on the driver's stand? Or are you looking to look like me walking around the pits in my cool RC Underground Radio merch? Well, listen. I'm sorry to say that Carpies can't work miracles in those departments. But there's good news. The folks at Carpies can definitely help you become the ultimate toy car nerd. How do you ask? With their custom wraps and a killer collection of official RC branded merch. So while they can't promise to shave a 10th off your lap time, they can save you 10% on your next order with promo code RCU10 upon checkout at carpies.com. That's CARPYS.com.
Hey, Ryan, we got big news. Papa Willie's has asked if they could be a part of the RC Underground Radio.
It's good stuff. Like the smell.
Do you use it as a cologne? That's a question.
I don't wear it, but it gets on me.
I've looked at some of their social media. They really like to have fun.
It's good to promote his kindness as well. You know, he likes to have a lot of fun. You see it in all of his promotions, and we're certainly going to jump on that train. But, you know, when you're buying his product, know you're buying from a good guy who really supports this hobby and, you know, supports our mission, and that's to grow it and support racers and racetracks throughout the country.
For sure. So stay tuned, everybody. It's going to be a fun ride. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks again for taking in another week session of RC Underground Radio. We hope we've given you another piece of the hobby that you can go and get fascinated with and learn more and get involved, get in it. Again, thank you, everybody. Have a great night.
Thank you for listening to the RC Underground Radio podcast. Be sure to like, subscribe, and tell your fellow racers about the show. Tune in again next week for more RC content.